Okay. I guess like maybe a lot of people like games بس مش عايزين يعني يتكلموا. طب خلينا نسأل السؤال المحرج. Have you cheated before؟ حد منكم cheated in a game أو اشترى cheat code ولا حد يعمل حاجة زي كده؟ أو actually شاف يعني cheating in one of the big games. Yeah, someone is very honest. He made his own cheat engine. Nice. Okay. Okay. What cheat? Not yet. Yeah. Maybe after the call. طيب النهارده هنتكلم الاجنده of the presentation. نتكلم الاول عن الجيم تشيتنج. ليه الجيم تشيتنج؟ نتكلم عن الايكونومي والماركت بتاع الجيم تشيتنج والتكنولوجيز اللي هي the anti cheating technology which you can think about it زيها زي الانتي فيروس بس for games. وايه هو الفيوتشر of the game cheating and the use of machine learning for cheating in general وريسيرش والكارير opportunity. والحقيقه السبب الرئيسي للبرزنتيشن او للسلايدز ديت او للتوك اللي انا عملتها ديت ان if you're a young security researcher او انت student ولسه بتبتدي الكارير بتاعك, maybe you would like to go for penetration testing, maybe you like to do malware analysis or reverse engineering. اللي عاوز اوريه لك في البرزنتيشن ديت ان maybe there is other opportunities في area كبيره اسمها الجيمنج. It's a huge market وفي شركات كبيره جدا وفي information security career opportunity research opportunities موجوده في الماركت دهوت. Maybe you don't know about it. Maybe you can start your career after this presentation in this area. And I hope this could be the purpose of the presentation. Not after finishing the presentation انت تبدا you do your hacks and you do your cheat. No, it's illegal. I would like ان انت تبدا your opportunity in defeating and defending against the cheating, not building your cheat. Definitely عشان تقدر defend against the cheat and helping your career you will have to understand اللي cheats دي شغاله ازاي وايه الانفورميشن security opportunities والتكنيك والتكنولوجيز والريسيرش اللي موجود في الاريا دي. السؤال الاساسي والرئيسي هو actually ليه cheating? Why people do cheating? The cheating comes from the natural competitive nature of the game. The game is very competitive. You play game against an AI in your computer, like انت بتلعب one-to-one match او ان انت you play in a league or a tournament and usually only one win or team win. وبالتالي the nature of playing games is actually competitive. And in the competition, the human nature أو الناس دايما if there is a competition they will try to find a way to win. And this may be a legitimate ways to win. لو انت really good in playing games. أو sometimes you do illegal way to win. And accessing to cheat أو الناس اللي بتشتغل في cheating, they basically when they have a cheat tool, they have an access to unfair advantage and privilege. They allow them to break the competition that comes from the game. بس برضو why they do cheating. في الغالب there is main two reasons players أو أي players بيبدأ يعمل cheating. أول حاجة the player status هو when you cheat you win, and when you win you become on the top of the pyramid. الناس كلها شايفاك this is the winner and he's playing so good and this gaining like personal status. ولكن برضو في بعض الأحيان إن أنت you have a financial gain which basically means when you play very well other people like watch you. Maybe انت وانت بتلعب games you streaming وبالتالي ال watch will like on your streaming this translate لي financial gain. Or maybe when you play a tournament and then you win that tournament you get a trophy أو بتاخد فلوس when you win in that tournament. Or when you play you just like the play for cash. Some people play and then at the end they take cash سواء من الجيم studio أو الجيم publisher أو play من other player that loses the games. So وبالتالي either player status and become on the top of the pyramids of the winning status and prestige as a top player. أو in that somehow بتranslate إن أنت بتكسب فلوس أو you get more views by when you streaming your games. So how big is the gaming cheat market? Is it a big problem? الناس اللي بتعمل cheat and they develop a cheat, is it a big market? The question is really important عشان ده بيوضح لك how big is this economy or market. The reality is the game cheating market is huge. It's actually multi-billion market economy. There is an illegal companies and cybercrime groups that build cheating for the major games وتبدا تبيع التشيت تولز دي للبلاير او التيمز اللي بتبقى بتشترك في تورنمنتس او بتشترك في اي سبورت ليجز. ودايما التولز دي بتتباع in a subscription based business model and they give you support. لو انت بصيت في السكرين من تحت you will see couple of screenshots من a company called Engine Owning, and this company developed a cheat for Call of Duty, Battlefield, and all of that games. And لو انت بصيت على التولز دي بتتباع ازاي, usually as I said subscription based. فممكن يقول لك مثلا we develop a tool for Call of Duty Warzone واحنا هنديك التول دي subscription for 30 days مثلا ب $30 او 3 months subscription for $50 او lifetime subscription for $500 and lifetime subscription دايما بيجي معاه اللي هو السبورت. لو في new patch came from the game you will have to bypass the patch دهوت او if there is a new version of the game maybe you could have like half price على a new version of the game. عشان تتخيل how big is this market, اما بص الناحيه الثانيه الناس اللي هم the big publisher and the companies that producing the game like Activision for the game of Call of Duty, they have a lawsuit against the engine owning company and they requested in that lawsuit which is اللي هي بيرفعوا عليهم قضيه يعني to take down الانجنز ديت, and they requested في 2021 $700 million in damage. They claim for Activision and Call of Duty the damage for using that game is actually causing the company $700 million. وبالتالي they actually do a lawsuit in the US court and they want to take it down and then they pursue right against the company owning this engine. وعشان تبدا تتخيل كمان ال implication of that game, Call of Duty على سبيل المثال they take down في اسبوع واحد مثلا 100k user account which they ban it because of using the game. This is in a single week, and then there's other weeks they take like 50k and then 40k and so on. So this, you can imagine how huge this problem in a single game. So imagine the other games. So how the gaming cheat category works او ايه الجيم cheating in general, you can think ان الجيمنج cheats دايما بيبقى في two main categories, حاجه اسمها knowledge based وحاجه اسمها gaming assistant. Knowledge based, when you apply a game cheat tool ديت you gain more knowledge about the player or the enemy. على سبيل المثال map visibility, when you can see you can open the map and you can see the other player how they move inside the map. او حاجه زي الوول هاكس. الوول هاكس ان انت you can see the player across the wall, وهنشوف ازاي technically ازاي حاجه زي دي بتحصل. Or game assistant, which is you apply حاجه زي الايم بوت او التريجر بوت which allowing you to shoot directly at a player or an enemy, او تخلي الكرسر of your mouse just like moving automatically to the object of this player. And usually the input will trigger bot. It requires a lot of like trigonometry computation. You injecting a code inside the game binary, and then that code search for the X and Y and Z coordinate for the crosshair of the player. لو انت player crosshair ده اللي هو اسم البلاير اللي بيطلع فوق راسه. So it search for in the memory crosshair and then search for X and Y and Z coordinate and then to compute the shooting ray, which is calling the pitching and rolling, and then trigger the function that do shooting, which is maybe do kill or do harm. I'm telling in technical how this function is doing, but this basically assisting the user to automatically trigger on the crosshair of the player او ان هي to aim change الكرسر او اللي هو to hover الكرسر into that object. ده بنسميها الجيم assistant. So how it technically works, ازاي دي بتشتغل? There is usually 3 ways for building a game cheat. ان انت you in memory manipulating the data structure of the game. على سبيل المثال if you want to reach out للobject بتاعت البلاير you will have to search for crosshair اسم البلاير ده موجود فين عشان تبدا تدور على حته تشتغل بينها او ان انت تبدا to inject your code. And that requires ان انت to search the memory of the game process and identify where is the string of the crosshair موجود. From this part, you start to reverse engineering the tool and start to see هو الاوبجكت بتاع البلاير دوت او الفيرست بيرسون شوتر انمي او بلاير او البلاير انتيتي اوريدي موجوده فين والداتا ستراكشر بتاعتها والكلاس بتاعها, and then you start to reverse engineering and build your injected DLL to manipulate the data structure. الحاجه الثانيه ان انت to abuse او to modify rendering engines of the game. وده بيستخدم في التريكس زي الوول هاكس, وهنشوف سلايدز الجايه هتتكلم عليها. ان لو انا عاوز اعمل وول هاكس I need to see البلاير اللي هو behind the wall. الوول ده بيترسم عن طريق الريندرنج انجن او الجيم انجن اللي انت بتستخدمه, زي مثلا OpenGL. And then when you draw الوول دي using OpenGL and then you draw another wall behind the first wall, الOpenGL بيبقى فيه مجموعه من الفانكشن to render this object, والفانكشن دي بيبقى فيها parameters اسمها depth function. Depth function it means how deep I need to see or render object behind the other object. وبالتالي التشيتس اللي هي زي الوول هاكس usually it change the depth function and modify the argument. فبتقول بدل ما انا اشوف less depth I need to see always, I need to see all the depths, all the objects behind each other. I can see the other wall behind the first wall, I can see the player behind the wall, I can see the other player behind the wall and so on. او الحاجه الثالثه ان انت to abuse الجيم ايفنتس وهوكس. usually كل الجيم بيبقى عندها حاجه هوكس اسمها هوكس او event which is get more information about the game, and sometimes this event or hooks leak information about the game that can be used by the cheater in building the cheat. وده مثال ل rendering engine API hooking modification. الجيم دي is a first person shooter game. الجيم دي اسمها Assault Cube. usually Assault Cube تستخدم for game hacking tutorial. الايمج اللي على الشمال دي من غير hooking and modifying الOpenGL اللي هي الديبث function. As you can see, I can see the player, I can see anything. ولكن الجيم on the right, this is when I manipulated the function اسمها depth function. As you can see هنا هو انت شايف ان في player فوق, actually it's not مش موجود فوق الوول, هو موجود فوق object والاوبجكت ده ورا الوول. ولكن once I disabled the depth function, I see what I need to see other object. I need to see a render player behind the wall, and this is how it works by simply manipulating a rendering function. So how the cheating work? So we understand right now a major technique ازاي بتimplement the cheat. There is usually 2 or 3 ways for building the cheat. أول حاجة user mode injection, and this is basically very similar to malware analysis. So you inject a DLL inside the game, and that DLL search for the call of the function زي depth function, and then when it reaches the function دي بيتشينج the control flow graph او بيبدا overwrite الفانكشن parameter زي من depthless ل depth always, او ان هو بيتشينج control flow graph ان هو بدل ما انت تقول الفانكشن زي do kill او do harm تقول له لا انا مش عاوز a trampoline او just like a jump to other like remote function. ودي بتستخدم for لو انا عاوز ابني cheat that cheats not killing a user, او ان انا ابقى player I'm not dying anymore. So I search in the game binary على الفانكشن اللي هي بتعمل do kill او do harm او تخلي بتابلاي ال dynamics of like shooting and killing, and then it change the control flow graph لو اليوزر دوت knee او بتسميه مثلا unarmed او اي حاجه to avoid this user is being killed. او على سبيل المثال I can do user mode injection for searching for an object او variable في الميموري. على سبيل المثال لو انا عاوز مثلا to gain more gold او gain more life, فبالتالي I search في الobject اللي موجود فيه how many lives I have in the game, or how many life or how many gold I have, and then increase the content of this particular variable in memory. But sometimes the game itself is actually protected by an antivirus, which basically the anti-cheat product of technology. Some of this anti-cheat product موجودة في الميموري. And in order to modify the game process, I need to do a little bit of kernel exploitation. Kernel exploitation like using vulnerable kernel so that I can inject code in the kernel mode, أو إن أنا to bypass technology of the operating system زي process guard or kernel guard and any of this like kernel technology for protecting game. ولكن أغلب الجيم cheating tools والtutorials بتعتمد على اليوزر مود انجكشن using DLL injection او اي تكنيكس من المعروفه في user mode injection. So how the game actually protecting their binary and source code and memory. Second, sorry. The game engine او the game producer او the company is developing the game دايما بيبقى عندهم a different ways for protecting the games. أول طريقة is sometimes relying على native operating security measures and techniques. فلو أنت بتdevelop game for a Windows, you can rely على لو مثلا you're running the game on a Windows 10, you rely على الكernel mitigation زي process guard والprocess protection والkernel level protection to avoid injecting a DLL in the game process and game memory أو إن أنت to load any other unsigned kernel drivers that can attack the actual game memory. So this is the one. So you're relying على operating system techniques for protecting your game. ولكن دايما الجيم developer they do other things for checking the integrity of the game. And then they do process and memory checks. على سبيل المثال when the game starts الجيم دي بتبدا calculate the integrity of the memory allocated memory ليها وتcompute حاجه زي مثلا say very basic and simple CRC hashes. And then every time interval the game developer they start to scan his own memory game and then recompute the CRC hash. ولو ال CRC hash ده اتغير then there is something malicious have been injected into the game binary and then it disables the game, it stops the game, it disconnects from the server, whatever the action they want to do. So they do a lot of like regular time-based interval security checks. التكنيك الثالث after the game player and the developer they write the code and build all the world and do the game physics and building the story and the game is becoming ready and then they compile the final version. They start to add anti-reverse engineering and anti-debugging technique. دي حاجه من الحاجات المعروفه لو الناس بتشتغل في المالوير analysis reverse engineering they knew what are this anti-reverse engineering technique. So maybe using a packer technique to pack the game binary itself. تمام maybe a virtual machine based packer. They start to adding anti-debugging technique علشان يتاكد ان لو حد بيبدا يعمل reverse engineering ويبدا يانلايز الجيم وبيلود الجيم باينري في ديباجر زي x64 debugger ولا WinDBG, the game stops from the execution. Because if you load it into the debugger, this means you're trying to reverse engineer. ده مش معناه a full protection. Usually that means ان هو try to stop أو delay the process of reverse engineering and identifying the secrets of the game. So this is a kind of the binary protection. Another techniques, which is a lot of like game developers, especially the big games relying on, اسمها on-demand encryption and decryption. On-demand encryption and decryption, it means in لو في حاجة مهمة أو secret of the game أو information like a string, you do not decrypt the string ده unless it needed. على سبيل المثال, if a player entity and this player entity has a crosshair اسم player, and this is actually a string, so that string is always encrypted and only decrypted unless المove أو الكرسر بيهوفر على player entity. In this case, الجيم انجن بيبدا يديكريبت الكروس هير وبعد ما الماوس بيموف away from the player entity, it's just like decrypting and destroying that string in memory. So you are not leaking او ان انت بتبدا تكنترول اي game content in memory and just like decrypting when it needed. ده مش بس على السترينج دوت على الاوبجكت البلاير entity variables و struct السيرفر كوميونيكيشن لو انت بتلعب حاجه اي سبورت and play in a multi e-sport league, او حتى لو انت بتلعب استراتيجي جيم, انت زي مثلا بتلعب استراتيجي جيم and you have a map and الجزء اللي في الماب ده هو بس اللي باين بالنسبه لك واكروس الماب كلها black that's basically mean encrypted and that black part of the map start to decrypt when you just like progress across the map. And then الجزء اللي عليه shadow they have been decrypted again. So in-demand encryption and decryption is very important to stop the basic and the cheap اللي هي string search using a tool زي cheat engine. So in addition to the binary protection, a lot of the companies of big game studios they rely على source code protection. So after they write all the source code, maybe in a C#, maybe in a C++, regardless of whatever their programming language, they take the actual source code and then they transform it. They add more macro او بيعملوا حاجه زي code obfuscation using maybe LLVM compiler. وبالتالي the second generated code is becoming harder to understand and harder to being analyzed. وبعد كده هو يبدا يcompile obfuscated code فيبدا يديله binary which is really hard to analyze, and then they add the anti-reverse engineering and anti-debugging technique which is becoming really hard to analyze, and that takes time to reverse engineering and extracting the secrets of the code. But in addition to all of this, اغلب الشركات او التكنولوجيز اللي بتعمل جيم especially the big player game they do حاجه اسمها continuous monitoring. Continuous monitoring is always collect the data من الجيم player ومن الجيم scene and then send this data to the server side and do emulation. لو انا مثلا بلعب in a match او league, and then the data about the position of the player, the shooting, the aiming at the player, how many players do, how many dies you do, how many goals you have, كل الداتا دي without the GUI is being sent to the server, and the server do an emulation, play بيلعب زيك بالظبط. And then if there is a differences ما بين الداتا اللي موجوده عند البلاير versus الداتا اللي موجوده عند السيرفر side, then the server may decide there is a chance that this player is actually cheating. And there is a system, the Overwatch system, that is implemented in big games. This Overwatch system is collecting what they call demo files. Demo files is simply logs about you. So if you play a game, the Overwatch system is enabled in the game. So it collects a game ID, a player ID, a player session, how many players you have, how many dies, your positions every 15 seconds, and collected that into a telemetry, a logs file that is being encrypted. And then in the server side, if the machine learning model decided that you are cheating, that demo file send to the server side, and then human analyzer, maybe they SOC back for game, they investigate and log files that, and then decide that you are cheating, and then they give an action to ban you from playing games, or whatever the action the company and the policy they have been decided. So what is the current state of the anti-cheat technology or product? As we said, there is e-sport and e-leagues. على سبيل المثال, there is a big e-sport for games like Counter-Strike, CSGO, and the companies doing that e-sport and cheating, e-sport and leagues, they face it. They have their own cheating, so they actually build anti-cheat engine for CSGO and for other game, which is a kernel mode or user mode that protect you. And usually, an anti-cheat engine that, as I said, think about it, the antivirus. It checks for DLL injection, it checks for kernel exploitation, it checks for any manipulation, for any hooks, and all the stuff that the antivirus is doing. And then when they detect any cheat, they send that information to the server, and then the server banning you or just like disconnecting you from connecting to the server. So esports, they have their own games like ESEA or Faceit. They build their own anti-cheat technology that they use in any league, the Counter-Strike, Go, or any other game. وفي جيمز ثانيه specific to engine, سواء user mode anti-cheat technology او kernel mode anti-cheat. على سبيل المثال VAC اللي هو من Valve. If you play any game comes from Valve, usually you see VAC is coming as part of the game. VAC is a user mode. It checks for user mode injection. It checks for user mode like hooking. وفي Riot game, they have their own version, which is Vanguard, and then Vanguard is actually kernel mode injection, and you see Vanguard in Valorant game. But also there's a generic antivirus, is the Easy Anti-Cheat and PatternEye, and this is most of the common generic kernel mode anti-cheat technology or product. Easy Anti-Cheat, this is a new company. They have been come to the market, I think 2013 or 14. Where Easy Anti-Cheat, they have been acquired by Epic Games as part of the Epic strategy. And usually if you use the engine like an Unreal, or you develop a game, لو انت gaming studio, you develop game for Epic, usually you have an access to Easy Anti-Cheat engine, the source engine, that you can implement all the function calls and embedded the collection telemetry in from the game side. And Easy Anti-Cheat موجود في big games like Fortnite, Gears, and The Division, and Halo, and a huge number of games Easy Anti-Cheat مستخدم فيها. PatternEye is actually much older, but it's less popular than Easy Anti-Cheat. موجود برضه في games كبيرة زي Fortnite and PUBG. So this is a kernel mode antivirus for games that generic enough that if you build your own game, if you're a gaming studio, you can have a license for easy or pattern eye, and then you can implement it. أو لو أنت بتستخدم Unreal, probably you will have a license for easy anti-cheat that you can use it for game security detection. And then there is a server side, which is as a FireEye. FireFight is a server side emulation. When you implement FireFight, it takes screenshots from the player and pull statistics about the player to the server side and make the emulation, and apply multi-layer machine learning model to detect if there's a player is trying to cheat. So it's بيسموها less evasive. It's not scanning the memory. It's not kernel mode. It's not injecting anything in the memory. It's just taking data and then analyzing that data on the server side, and then take that information and decide if the user have to be banned or not. And there's a lot of like less invasive technology that server sides they buy from, and many other technology that rely in the endpoint antivirus style detection. It doesn't work, especially with the streaming اللي هو pre-stream of games. وبالتالي we need to rely more on the server side emulation and machine learning model for detecting the cheating is actually much better than looking for the basic DLL injection and loading vulnerable kernel driver and so on and so forth. But the problem is the cheating actually starts to change using the machine learning, and it's not only using DLL injection and security. There's actually a machine learning driven cheating. And one of these examples is Jan import. That Jan import is a public research. It just like published maybe three, 4 months ago. And it's using the Jan, the generative adversarial network, and the computer vision to start looking for the object of the game, and then make a marker على the player or the enemy, and automatically make an input and trigger bot. So there is no security violation here. There is no DLL injection. There is no manipulation of the kernel. It's just like an AI and machine learning learning and identifying and generating adversarial object entity that actually play the game. And the paper of the Jan import is actually public paper, and they apply the paper in an older style game similar to do. But also, it's not about only the cheat. Like 2-3 days ago, OpenAI, one of the major driver in the machine learning and AI world, they come up with a system called an VBT. And VBT is a learning system that learn how to play Minecraft by watching videos of Minecraft. So that AI system, it gives him a huge amount of like a player playing Minecraft, and then that video pre-training system, they start to learn how to play Minecraft. It goes without saying, لو السيستم دوت is actually the application is online. I think the GitHub code for training is available. Then it goes without saying they can train a system to play Halo, or play Battlefield, or play whatever the game that you're doing. And that game is that player, like an AI player, may be much more hardcore and much more like good player than any human player. And then the question is, are we approaching, how we detected without machine learning versus a human? And if we detect it, is it bad? Can we block him? What is the situation to block him? هل مثلا واحد act as a player in a streaming, and in the back end the VBT training our tool that is playing in behalf of this human player? It's actually very complicated, which make the process of identifying the hacking and cheat is becoming harder and harder by the ML and by the stream type. Everything is moving to the cloud. Every game is moving to the stream mode. So identifying the cheater is a problem, and the detection technique and detection technology and the product is actually in a bad position, because they don't know how to deal with this new threats about the cheating and about security process violation. So what's your career opportunity and what I need to start doing research in this area? You need 3 things. You need cheat engine, a tool for searching the memory and identifying the game secrets. You need a disassembler, maybe either Pro, maybe whatever the design, like either Pro, R2, أي حاجة من the tools date, and then you need a debugger with DBG, X64 DBG, and whatever. And then you take a game maybe an open source game like Assault Cube, maybe any other game, like a small game like a Mario, and start to search for that game memory and start to build your own cheats to it. There's a couple of books available online. One of the books called Game Hacks. I think it's published in 2016. It's a good, it will give you all the basics you need. There is a huge number of forums and tutorials on YouTube that allows you to build it and game. And in general, those kind of the tutorial or kind of the skills, it doesn't difference than what you do for learning how to do exploit development, malware analysis, server side and network side penetration testing. كل التكنيكس دي وكل السكيلز اللي انت بتتعلمها is actually transferable to if you want to build a career in the game anti-cheating and game defending. So what about the career opportunities? There is a huge career opportunity here. Every major studios, I wouldn't say كمان مش بتكلم على الشركات الكبيرة زي ايبك و EA Games وكل الشركات دي. There is the middle-sized studios and small-sized studios usually search for people like having information security engineering. It's not only about defending against cheating, but also the game server. دايما when you build a game and then you have a multiplayer game, those game servers targeted by the DDoS attacks. They targeted by bots that try to flood and kill that server. And a lot of like penetration testing happen on the server side to ensure that the server is secure. But also those games developer and studios اهم حاجه محتاجينها ان هو يتاكد ان انا I need when I ship a new game, no one reverse engineer it, no one will tamper the game, no one will extract the secret. Because if لو انا عندي new game and someone came and said, well, I can't kill that game, I can reach out to the level 100 in 30 minutes, so no one will play the game. So usually all the game studios, so smaller or medium-sized studio, or even the big player, they look for people for reverse engineering an existing cheat, know how the cheat works, and develop a mitigation and detection technique for the existing product. That's very similar to the antivirus. You look for the new viruses, malware, you understand how the malware works, you build a new detection, you write a detection for your engine. In this case, you can build for your own product. So there is a huge career opportunity for information security related to the anti-cheat and reverse engineering. وفي الحاجات التانية زي ال penetration testing و network penetration testing و security audits for the server side and for the agent side. So I think it's a huge opportunity, and then there is more career will come in. Unfortunately, maybe it's not in Egypt, or maybe in a little bit in the Middle East, but most of the gaming studios موجودة في أوروبا, there's in Turkey, طبعا في US, and definitely China and Asia is a huge market for the gaming studios and publisher and all of those development system. All right, I think I finished on time. I'm so yeah. I hope you learned something interesting. I hope you got interesting information. And yeah, if you have any question, let me know.
تمام، هو محدش بعت أسئلة خالص.
Okay.
هو طبعا انا بشكرك دكتور احمد على مشاركتنا في بسايدز كايرو، بس بصراحه انا عندي اسئله. يعني دلوقتي زي ما حضرتك قلت، هي صناعه الالعاب دي حاجه مهمه. انا زي ما حضرتك قلت موجود في مراكز ابحاث وشركات كتير بتهتم بالكلام ده. بس كان في نقطه ودي يعني كنت حابب اسال فيها حضرتك. دلوقتي حضرتك شايف المملكه العربيه السعوديه نفسها كانت قالت في 2021 ان حجم سوق الالعاب عندها بيوصل لمليار دولار تقريبا، وفي 2030 هيوصل ل 6.8 مليار دولار على فيعني معنى كده ان الاندستري بتاعت الجيمنج اوريدي هتدخل الشرق الاوسط. فحضرتك شايف هل التكنيكس اللي موجوده في الانتي تشيتنج اللي موجوده بره هتبقى بنفس التكنيكس اللي موجوده؟ زي ما حضرتك عارف ان التكتيك والتكنيكس بتاعت الادفايسري بتختلف طبقا للريجونز او حجم الثريت لاندسكيب بتاعها. فهل ده هيأثر بشكل كبير على التغير بتاعت الاندستري جيمنج في الشرق الاوسط وبشكل الانتي تشيتنج تكنيكس اللي هتبقى موجوده؟ ده سؤالي الوحيد يعني.
Yeah. So the gaming industry is becoming bigger in the Middle East. As you said, في السعودية في a big fund and for a small startup for the games. Usually this fund actually acquiring a big company. على سبيل المثال في السعوديه they put a big stake في ال ESL which is an e-sport. I think they put a big stake as well في الcompany اسمها FaceIT which is they do e-sport and league tournament. They have their own anti-cheat. وبالتالي هم بيشتروا شركات كبيره، والشركات الكبيره دي they come with technology, they come with anti-cheat and they rely على التكنولوجيا اللي هم عملوها في ال HQs بتاعتهم. ولكن برضه في small gaming studios and medium sized gaming studios موجوده في في السعوديه، في شركات كبيره زي مثلا في الاردن طماطم، في multiple companies موجوده في UAE، في very few companies موجودين في مصر. Are they changing the cheating dynamics? Yes, of course. In كل region they have their own problem, they have their own kind of games. So I'm not sure الطماطم بتعمل ايه مثلا في ال cheating problem. Or they have a cheating problem. Probably they will have a cheating problem. But what they do, if they are building their own technology, yeah, potentially, yeah. When you're becoming a bigger company, you will have to build your own technology, and you will have to defend against the abuse of your game. هل ده opportunity for the individual? Yes, absolutely. The more there is acquisitions and small companies came into the market, that's usually more career opportunities في الريجن. هل ده بيجاوب على سؤالك؟
بالظبط. هو كان في سؤال تاني موجود في الشات كان بيتكلم هل في القانون المصري حاجة ضد الانتي تشيتنج او تشيتنج بشكل عام؟ بتهيألي ما اعتقدش الموضوع صعب لسه.
I don't know يعني ما اعرفش الحقيقة، بس اعتقد ان حزمة القوانين المصرية يعني لسه little bit behind. اعتقد مثلا القانون الجرائم الالكترونية لسه اتعمل سنه ولا سنتين، ما اعرفش الستاتس بتاعته ايه. فهل حاجات من اللي تشيت will be going under القانون ده؟ maybe I don't know. بس the fact it's not a problem، يعني طالما ما فيش industry في مصر مثلا بتاعت cheating which is causing a big problem, no one will care usually. Maybe في السعوديه، maybe في الامارات، maybe في تركيا which they having a bigger market and bigger companies, and then attacking those companies and cheating, they will destroy the economy and ecosystem for them. Maybe the lawyer man will just go and then find a way to build to develop a law.
Yes, totally agree. أنا بشكرك تاني دكتور أحمد، حقيقي من التوكس المختلفة اللي أول مرة تتقدم كمان في BSides، وأعتقد إنها أول مرة تتقدم حتى للناس في مصر. يعني اندستري مهمة وفكر جديد وفكر مختلف، طبعا كالعادة توك مختلفة من حضرتك زي ما إحنا بنحضر كل مرة مع حضرتك. حقيقي مبسوط وشكرا لتواصلك معنا، وأتمنى طبعا تشرفنا تاني وتكون جزء من الكوميونتي بتاعنا. إحنا بنقدم محتوى مختلف بقدر الإمكان، مش متأثرين بس بالناس بره، إحنا بنقدم توبكس جديدة. زي ما حضرتك عارف احنا عندنا ليميتيشن كبيره في السوق المصري في المجالات صعبه شويه، فاحنا محتاجين الناس تسمع لتوبكس جديده وموضوعات مختلفه تفتح لها طريق في كارير جديد وريسيرش اند ديفلوبمنت. واتمنى بصراحه حضرتك تكون يعني فيما بعد جزء كبير من معانا هنا في مصر، تقدر تساعدنا نطور اكتر في الواقع الصعب اللي احنا بنعيشه. شكرا، واتمنى لحضرتك يوم سعيد، واتمنى ان شاء الله تكمل معانا في الايفنت التوكس الجايه. بشكر الوقت حضرتك،
ان شاء الله.
عليك سعيد.
شكرا يا امجد، وشكرا للمجموعه بتاعت BSides Cairo for the organization. اتمنى ان الاتنديز يعني او الناس اللي حضرت التوك تلاقي معلومه مفيده. And I hope in that inspire anyone to find a new area of his research or his career. Maybe you find something interesting. This is my Twitter account. If anyone need to reach out, if anyone need information, I may be able to help. I'm not that expert in the game, so yeah, I think I have a basic information. So maybe I can help لو أي حد محتاج مساعدة.
شكرا لوقت حضرتك ويوم سعيد. شكرا جدا ليك. شكرا.